These are cards we disagree on in Commander.
I'm your host, Joe Cherries.
No, I'm your host, Beezy, and that makes us, and mostly me, the Nitpicking Nerds. And you can support me on Patreon by giving me your money. Well, actually, something to mention about me is I've recently revamped Patreon. Some of the tiers now have gifts that you will attain after a certain number of months join, so you might want to go check it out because things have changed over there. We'd love you as much as we can without making you uncomfortable.
You can support me by using the TCG Player affiliate link in the description below. Start with that link, go to the website, and then guess what? I get money because you bought cards.
Yeah, but I'm sponsored by Maraschiello, and there's going to be an ad in the middle. Joe will never be able to guess where it is, but if they somehow did, they cheated, and happy birthday to everyone whose birthday is today.
That's from both of us.
That's from both of us. This one is going to be interesting. I would like, right now, everyone to keep a mental note of what we say, and then you in the comments list, who do you think won the overall episode, and then who was right or wrong on each card, because these are all cards we disagree on in Commander to some extent. We wanted to make sure it was meaningful enough. It's not like, oh, I think the card's a 5 out of 10 and Joe thinks it's a 6 out of 10. It's like, no, these are pretty bigger gaps.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll start with the first one. It's one that I am higher on currently, and it's Ghostly Prison. I've kind of come around on this card recently in the past year, and I think when you're playing combat metas, it legitimately protects your life total in a distinctive way that is worth a slot in your deck.
I think that it's butts still. I still have not come around on it. I'm going to try a version of it in a budget deck. I'll get back to you on whether I like it in budget. I just can't. I've seen this card in the battlefield, and I still just go, and I've seen it not do much. We already talked about, like, before when we were talking about combos, it's like, well, some decks can just completely avoid you. That number is lessened because we're all playing combat now, but I still think a lot of decks can just kind of sit there and not worry too much about it.
Yeah, I'm only talking about in combat metas.
Yeah, for sure.
When you're talking about in combat metas, I just think that 2 is too much for tax to pay. In that it will protect your life from all the little chip damage, especially when you're a deck that doesn't produce a lot of creatures, where you don't have the blockers for all that chip damage. That 1 and 2 is going to add up to you over the game because you're always open for that 1 and 2 from every player, meaning that it's going to be 9, 10, sometimes 18, 20 damage that is prevented because no one's paying 2 to chip you for 2 damage.
Yeah, I think it's a weird life gain spell, and I'm not too high on it. It's a life gain spell that they can choose to just ignore. Let's go to the next one that I am more high on. This is started out as a meme, but I actually kind of like it, so I kept it in one of my decks. It's Warping Whale. You can counter sorcery or make an Eldrazi. Don't do that one. Or exile a creature with power of toughness 1, and it's an instant. I'm only talking about like in mono white or like mono red, where you don't have access to a counter spell ever, and you have some colorless lands. But if I'm playing monocolor, I always have colorless lands. This has just been like fine for me. I've actually not hated it. It's got me out of some situations while not being dead most of the time.
It's not dead, but I think the modes get pretty bad pretty quick. So let's just start at the top. You have counter sorcery, which I think is too corner case and too niche. So when I'm sitting there with this card in my hand, waiting for a sorcery, sorceries aren't even like that super high played of a type. Like usually it's the counter board wipes that is the sorcery you see the most, but decks often play low counts of sorceries because you really want to get your deck either playing creatures, playing instants, or doing something else. Then we have exile a creature. How many 1 toughness creatures are worth exiling? There's some, don't get me wrong. Or power are worth exiling. It's not that many. Now, it might be worth it to get rid of a dork like on turn 2 if you happen to have the Wingding available, but that's not necessarily going to happen. I think the other mode of making a token is butts. Like, it's bailout, but it's butts and it does nothing.
Every once in a while, it'll do something. It's not 0%. It's probably like 40% of the time you make a 40% of the time you counter a sorcery, 40% of the time you exile a thing, and then 20% of the time you make a dude. It can be bad. I have just liked it generally. I have not wanted to take it out yet. I'll get back to you, but currently I am sort of a fan. I'm not even saying it's broken. I just have enjoyed playing it. I think it's playable.
And I would never put it in.
Yeah, you would just never play it.
Yeah, next is a card that I've just come around on overall. It's Terminate. I think it's just a totally passable spell. Now, I'm not saying you should play this everywhere, but I think black-red decks really, if you want a high count of removal, this starts making your deck quickly.
Yeah, I just think it's like the cultivative removal spells. It's so low on my list that I don't see myself ever playing this under almost any circumstance. It's like, the cards that are just blowing it out of the water. We obviously have Deadly Rollick, but if you want to go down on budget, you still have Snuff Out. It's a couple bucks, but like Lethal Scheme too just came out, and that thing is often 2 or 0 mana, and man, just all these spells just Terminate's buried under them, and I won't play it.
I agree that Terminate is under it overall, but like if you're in black-red, most of your removal is hitting like either artifacts is some of the time or creatures. So you're going to have a lot of creature removal. Usually we talk about playing like 10 removal. Black can't really hit anything outside of creatures. Terminate just ends up making the cut for me in those decks now.
I don't want to list all of the ones that I think are better, but I think there's at least 10 that are better.
See, I disagree that there's 10 that are overall better.
Okay. Next is a card I'm a little bit higher on than Joe. It's Professional Facebreaker. This thing makes treasures, and then you can exile them to draw some cards, kind of. I think it's just good. It's playable in certain decks if you want treasure tokens, or if you have evasive dudes, or if you care about the number of tokens you make or the number of artifacts you make. Maybe. Joe does not think it's very good.
This card has kind of just been like, meh. From hitting for 1 is just not that good. Hitting for 2 with something like Grim Hireling, very good.
You mean number of treasures made?
Number of treasures made, yeah.
Okay, I'll hit you for 1, which of course means I'll make 1 treasure.
Yeah. So Professional Basebreaker makes 1 treasure. You can get 3 treasures in each combat. Grim Hireling, which I am actually high on and I will play in a lot of decks, makes up to 6 treasures per combat.
I think that card's better, but I still think this card's good.
And I think that card's so much better, and it makes this card look bad in comparison. Like, I have this card in a deck, and it's like begrudgingly okay. Like, it's not a card I'm looking to play. It's not a card I'm excited to play. It's fine, just fine, and I'm not really that happy to play.
I have it as good plus. I've enjoyed it I've played a lot of Brutaclad. That's kind of my deck where it's like, oh, I can use the tokens. I'd love to hit people. Every once in a while, I get a flyer. I think it has utility.
I have this on more of the meh or bad side. But is playable when you have like token synergies, like treasure synergies.
I think this card might be good enough to where you could just throw it in a random deck and have it not be a blank.
Let's see, I think it would be a fart.
Yeah, I don't think you would achieve fart status.
Yeah, I think it farts. Up next, we have Spark Double, and I'm higher on this one than Beezy. Spark Double is a clone, but it can clone your legendaries, but it can only copy your creatures. And what I just like about this, I think there's enough decks where having a second version of your commander is a significant enough advantage that it's worth playing in your deck.
Yeah, we were going over some of the commanders that this would be good in, and for every single one I was like, I'd rather just have the commander and then not have to set this up. Like, you really are paying the cost to have another commander. You have to resolve the other one first and then play this, and the commander sticks out. Now you have 2 commanders, but how much mana do you have left? Do you have to pass the turn? Do you get no value out of either of them until next turn? It's just a lot of things, and I don't like, of course, that you can't clone anything. It's just your stuff, so it can be almost dead. Yeah,
well, we're gonna play it in a high creature count deck for sure. Like, we're gonna play it where it's going. We're gonna make sure we don't have a situation where it's dead. Because if there's the real possibility, like say you're playing a 20 creature count, I'm off this card. In that case, like if this is a real possibility that there are board states where this will not be able to be playable, really, I'm out. And yes, I agree. There are blowout situations with this where you'll have 1 or 2 creatures on board and they can both be removed, and it'll absolutely wipe you off the face of the earth.
Well, I think this has, unlike most of the other clones, this has more blowout potential because even if you have 20 creatures in play, but there's only like 2 good ones or 1 good one, they can kill it and just kind of ruin the spell.
I see, but my question would be like, what deck are you playing where you have 20 creatures in play and only 2 of them are good?
Well, you know what I mean.
It's not a real thing.
You
make it to go. BZ's wrong. I'm right more than the next card.
That's true. Pretty much any card, any commander you list, I would rather just not spend the time to make this go. But I see it could be good. Shadowgrange Archfiend is my next card that I am higher on. Can you tell we're alternating? This one, the contention comes where obviously this card is amazing in Madness decks, but I would actually just play this card outside of Madness decks, and maybe if I know I have it, I'll make sure I can slot in one way to discard a card incidentally. But I just think this card's great. It makes everybody sacrifice the biggest thing, and you gain some life back.
Yeah, I don't want to play this card if I'm not able to Madness it. This card is good, no doubt. Like, I'm not saying this card's bad, but if I can't Madness it, I don't want to keep casting this thing over and over again. I don't want to it's okay to reanimate, but it's like I want to get that Madness cost. That's what makes this card so good, is that you get that Madness cost and you get to cast this thing for 3 mana.
I think maybe where I might trigger you a little bit, I haven't even mentioned this, but I think it's as good of a reanimation target, if not better, than your Archfiend.
What do you mean?
Because where you like reanimate it, the Arkan, sorry, the Arkan of Cruelty. I think it's just like if you're gonna reanimate something, I might just want this.
Yeah, I think Arkan's a better target.
Ooh, see, you get the 3-for-1 and you gain some life. I don't know.
Yeah, but the 3-for-1 is good. I'm not saying it's bad, but I think that the Arkan also gets a 3-for-1. Let's be clear, every single time.
Sorta.
No.
The card is worse than a creature on board.
Let's be very, very clear. It does get a 3-for-1. You can't tell me
the quality of 3-for-1 is worse.
Maybe on average, but Arkan also does more when it stays in play and does something.
Maybe, depending
100%.
Depending on what you're doing.
How are you going to tell me that an 8/4 vanilla on board that does nothing is not going to be better than the thing with an attack trigger that does the same thing?
You flicker it.
They're both good to flicker.
No.
They're literally both good to flicker.
I think Shadowgrange Archfiend might be better. Certainly more playable in general, but if we're talking about you can't madness it, still playing this card, I think it's pretty cool.
I'd rather reanimate Archon all day.
I think I'd rather reanimate Shadowgrange. You're probably wondering, BZ, why did you change into an Into the AM t-shirt? And that's because we're talking about Moxfield.com. It's the best deck building website. You got to get on there. Cherries?
Well, I was going to say a better segue would have been, we disagree on a lot of things in this video, but we can agree on one thing. Moxfield.com is awesome.
See, they would have seen that coming.
No.
This is unpredictable.
No, that wasn't unpredictable.
You know what is predictable? They're amazing quality.
That's true. Moxfield.com is our favorite deck building website, not even close. We've tried all the competitors, and they all stink.
All the redacteds.
All the redacteds. Moxfield.com is honestly amazing. You can build decks, sort them how you want. It's literally so customizable. Do you like Card Kingdom prices? Sure. Use Card Kingdom prices to sort your cards. Use TCG player prices if you like TCG, because TCG player, has some good prices.
And you can buy the cards for their affiliate link, and you just fill up the cart, and you click them all, and you move them over, and it's just so easy.
Or if you want to support Moxfield.com, you can just use their links. When you click their TCG player links on there, you support Moxfield, the best deck building website in the universe. They literally get supported with money from you.
And so we're basically directing you away from supporting us to go say you can support Moxfield because that's how awesome they are.
Moxfield is that good. That damn good. Up next, we have Doubling Season, and this is just a card where BZ would only ever play it in a Planeswalker deck, and I'm kind of not on that plane. I think there are enough decks, because counters are so good to put on your tokens deck, that I think a good number of tokens decks want this card. That this is a good token-centric card if you have even a little sub-theme of counters.
Yeah, so I think me and Joe could both agree that in a tokens deck exclusively, you don't need to play this card because you got two cards that are cheaper and basically do the same thing. And in a counters deck, Hardened Scales and Branching Evolution are basically just better anyway, and I think Evolution Sage also better because it's just a lot less setup for this. So, it's like, here's my 5-mana enchantment, and now I'm going to start doing stuff. I still feel like you're going to feel that no matter what deck you play it in. You mentioned something like Gave, and I'm like, that's pretty good, but either half is still pretty good. Like Hardened Scales is good in that deck, and Token Doublers are good in that deck. Do you need both? I don't know. It depends on if you're comboing or not. I just think in general, I'm probably never playing this unless I'm in a Planeswalker deck. Exactly.
Yeah, see, I don't think you necessarily need to play Planeswalkers. I think that there are enough tokens decks. There really are just enough tokens decks that play counters. As long as I think you do specifically want to care about both sides. I just think there's more decks that care about both sides. And even, Gave is like an easy include for me. Like, when I think Gave, it's like, this is like one of the first, if I'm not worried about budget, 10 cards that's going in, because it literally covers all of Gave. It's like, what does Gave do? Well, he makes tokens and he cares about +1/+1 cards. That is Doubling Season.
It is Doubling Season. I'd have to really check. I don't know if I'd make my deck. Let's go to the next card that I am higher on. I almost skipped one. Look, this one is the most dubious. I'm higher on it in that I think it might be worth testing. So I've put it in 2 decks, and it started as a meme, but it's End the Festivities. It's just 1 mana sorcery. It deals 1 to all your opposing creatures and opponents. I've just joked about one of the common jokes that in my playgroup that I always say is Shrivel would be really good right now. Like, oh man, where's the Shrivel? There's a lot of stupid X ones in play. And so I was like, you know what? I want to put my money where my mouth is. I'm going to see if Shrivel is good. And I'm going to play End the Festivities, which is, I think, the best Shrivel variant we have. So far, it's been mixed, but I'm still going to try it.
I just think it's terrible. Deal 1 damage to each creature is just not a viable effect unless you're playing something that gives your spells Death Touch.
That's a little bit different. But the next thing I'm going to try, if this doesn't pan out, I'm trying Pyroclasm next.
Yeah, so this card just overall it looks like it's way too bad. It never performs well, and I'm not interested in it. It doesn't do anything. It's like, because the problem is there might be the 1 in 20 boards where this is good.
There's no bailout on it, so it's either it kills some things or it doesn't. I think it is pretty good early game when you can start sniping mana dorks and stuff. So I want to give it some more tries, and I will keep you updated.
All right. Next is Twilight Prophet.
Oh my god, this card's so bad.
I think you're way too low on this card.
I think
honestly.
This is the End of Festivities of Joe's cards.
I really think that you're way too low on this card. I think that you don't play it out until the late game. I do think don't play this out on curve on turn 4 if you don't have the Blessing. You do need the City's Blessing. This is a little later card game, but we already know City's Blessing, not a hard thing to achieve in Commander. I mean, lands end up being 6-7 easy. It's like, do you have 3 other permanents? Of course you do.
This card tilts me so hard because if it didn't care about the City's Blessing, I would be, oh, well, it's good if you play it early game, but it's not good if you play it early game. And then I don't even like it in the late game, so I hate it.
But I don't even think, it's not even late game. It's mid game. It's like
later, like turn 6 when you don't want to necessarily cast a 4-drop.
turn 5 and 6 are when this card is going to be turned down. Like maybe 6
5 is pushing it.
Maybe
6 or 7.
6 or 7. But regardless, this card is easy to turn on. And I think once it gets going, it's just a very annoying, like life-draining thing that gets you good card advantage. And it's a creature for creature carrying decks.
I don't think the Phyrexian Arena is a good rate for card advantage, though, because you still got to wait for your upkeep. And the damage is like a coin toss. You don't know. It's basically 50-50 that the damage doesn't really matter.
But it's definitely
lands and 1 and 2 drops is probably 50%.
The damage matters at 1 and 2 still, though. The damage, it matters when you're...
Like, you're not playing this card if it was just 2.
Yeah, but the fact is this is decent card draw, and it's on a creature. If Phyrexian Arena is a creature, that card's good.
I don't know.
Phyrexian Arena as a creature isn't just a good card. If it's a 2/2,
I don't know.
I think Phyrexian Arena is just a good card as a creature.
It's just a good card as a creature.
Yeah.
I don't think this card's good.
This
I don't have to think about that one. I don't think
this card
is
like the one more mana. I think Phyrexian Arena creature is good.
I think this card stinks.
And I think this card is
I'm
also
hoping
good.
I win this one in the comments.
It's a flyer, and you're going to lose this one for sure.
Yeah, you know what? This Twilight Prophet has way too many fanboys.
People like Twilight Prophet. You're just the loser.
I hate this card. Let's last one. This is where Joe goes against everything the Nitpicking Nerds stand for. Kabira Takedown is an MDFC that I pretty much play all the time. If I'm playing creatures, I'm playing Emiria's Call. Obviously, no debate on that one. And then I'm playing this also.
Kabira's Takedown's fine. That's where I'm at.
I think it's great.
I think it's just one where it does its thing. It's totally passable, and it's a fine MDFC, but it's not one I'm looking to play. Like, I'm looking to play Hagramalling.
See, I'm actually excited about this. I have this close to Hagramalling. In terms of, I'm just always playing both.
I'm super high in Hagramalling because it's always removal. It's always removal. It never has a chance to not be removal. Like, I'm super high on Balagad Recovery. I like these ones specifically. This, for a tapped one, it's fine. I'll probably throw it in the white deck or two, but I'm not throwing it in every white deck.
I think if I can play this, outside of 3-color decks where you're playing more MDFCs, I'm just playing it.
Yeah, it's fine. Like, fine is the word for this card. Like,
how about great?
It's not great. It's fine.
How about super auto include?
Fine.
How about if you'd like to see us disagree some more and you want to see who won the previous video, there's a whole other video where we're disagreeing the whole time. Pretty sure I nailed it. You can check it out right here.
Peace out, Tribe Scouts.